Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caroline, and today's video is going to be the books that I read in September. So there's only about a week left in September, but I'm going to talk about the first two books that I've read, and hopefully I've read at least a third by the end of the month. But the first book that I read was Pride and Prejudice. I am so excited that I finally read this because it has been on, I've been trying to read it since middle school. I started it in middle school and then put it down because I couldn't get into it. But I finally read it, and I'm so excited. If you don't know what Pride and Prejudice is about, I think most people do. But if you don't know what it's about, it is about Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet. Elizabeth comes from a poor family. All daughters, no sons, and so the mom is just really trying to marry off all her daughters so that they're secure and safe, because it is set in, I think, the 1800s, and then Mr. Darcy is, a very, very rich man, and at first when they meet, Elizabeth, hates him, she thinks he's so disdainful and she doesn't like him. But then as the book goes on, they start to have an affinity towards each other, and it's really, really sweet. This is the OG enemies to lovers. I don't even know if you could call it enemies to lovers, but it's kind of enemies to lovers. I really liked this. I didn't rate it because I felt weird rating a book that's just so beloved, and I don't think I could rate it 5 stars. And so I don't know. I haven't been rating books as much. I've been trying to put less pressure on actually rating them in Goodreads. But I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. I love the movie. The movie's so good. I've only seen the 2005 one with Keira Knightley, but I love it, and it's so good. And the soundtrack is everything. I listen to the soundtrack all the time. So I definitely recommend reading it if you haven't, and also watching the movie. I really enjoyed it. So, Pride and Prejudice. It also took me 3 weeks to read, so that's one of the reasons why there will be less books for this month. And then the second book that I read is The Guest by Emma Cline. This is the book for my book club, and I actually mostly listened to it. I think I read a few chapters, but I mostly listened to the audiobook. The Guest is about a 22-year-old woman named Alex, and she's kind of living a double life because she's clearly running from something. She's running from something that happened in the past, and so she's clinging on to these people. And she's trying to kind of restart her life. So you're following, the whole book takes place in I'd say a week. And so you're following, her journey and how she's running from the past, but how it keeps catching up to her and how she's trying to move on. And it's literary fiction. And so it's definitely more character-based than plot-based. She meets all these characters on her, in this week that takes place, meets all these different kinds of people. And I really don't know what I'm gonna rate it. Probably somewhere between a 2 and a 3, because I didn't hate it. It wasn't a 1 star, but I didn't really like the ending, and I don't feel like I left with a good feeling, or I left with some inspirational message. But it's a really cool writing style. It's a very literal writing style where the author goes into all these minute details. And so it's a really cool writing style, and it keeps you entertained. I was entertained while I was listening to it. But I just at the end of it, I was just what was the message? Why? So I don't know. I probably won't read anything else by this author. But I'm glad I read it so that I can talk about it at book club. But that was the second book I read. So I will see y'all when I've read another book in September. Hi guys, it is now October, and I think I was planning on filming all of the books that I read in September as one video, but I ended up only reading 2. So now it's October. It is currently October 15th, I believe. Yes, it is October 15th. And I finished my first book of October. I read Girl Abroad by Elle Kennedy. Girl Abroad is about this girl named Abby. She is 19, and her dad's name is Gunnar Bly. Her dad is basically like this rock star. He's super famous. Everyone knows who he is. And he had like a really crazy, like, not childhood, but like when he was a young adult, he like went really crazy, you know, like as, you know, he had the whole rock and roll lifestyle. And so because of that, he's very overprotective of Abby, and he doesn't want her to like repeat past mistakes that he made. And so he's just like very watchful and very overprotective of her. But she wants her own adventures. She's always been telling everyone about his adventures, and she wants her own adventures. So she decides to do a year abroad in London for her sophomore year of college. And she meets these roommates, and she meets them online, so she never really like sees them, but she texts them, and they're these three girls, seem super nice. And so she arrives at London, she arrives at the flat, and all three of the girls were actually guys. So she had thought, based on their names, that they were all girls, but they're all guys. There's Lee, Jack, and Jamie. And so at first she's like, oh, okay, I need to go find a hotel. I need to go find new roommates. But then she gets to know them, and she like forms friendships with all of them, and they're super sweet. But she knows she can't tell her dad that they're guys, so she just decides not to. And this is a romance, so I don't know if it says like on the back, I don't know if it's a spoiler if I tell you who the romance is with, but I will say it is love triangle trope. And this kind of gets into like my thoughts on the book, because I feel like I like love triangle when it's done right, or when it's done in a certain way. Like I love the Summer Turned Pretty, I love the Inheritance Games, like love triangle thing that they have going on. But this one felt too similar to a different trope. I feel like the love triangle went on for so long that I didn't like it, and it was kind of frustrating me. So I will say I really liked the first half, and it's cool that it's set in London, and I like this whole idea of like she goes to London and she has like a fun romance, and there's also this whole mystery element, which I think like I haven't read in an Elle Kennedy book before. Like I've read The Deal and such, but I hadn't read like a mystery kind of. But she has this whole mystery that Abby's discovering while she's in London, and it kind of correlates to her own life. It's like something that happened like all these years ago, but it correlates to like what's happening in her own life, which was a really cool dynamic, and a cool like thing to make like the book not just romance. So that was the first book that I read in October. I'll see y'all when I finish the next one. Hi guys, I just read my second book in October. So I read Girl Abroad, and then honestly, October is almost over, so I hope I can read another after this. But I just finished Binding 13 yesterday. It took me like kind of a bit to collect my thoughts on this, because if you've read this book, you know the ending is something. It's a cliffhanger. But Binding 13, if you haven't heard about it, although I'm sure you have because it has been floating around Book Talk and social media for a while now, but Binding 13 is set in Ireland, and it's set in like 2005, I think, and it is about Shannon and Johnny. Shannon moves to this new school because she's been bullied at all her previous schools, and the bullying got really bad, so she moved to this private school where they have uniforms in Cork, Ireland. And Johnny is a rugby player there, and he is like the best rugby player in Cork. He like everyone thinks he's gonna go pro on the Irish team, and he's just like basically famous in Ireland for being this high school legend at rugby. So it is a romance. So it is like a little high school romance between the two, but it has a lot more serious topics, because Johnny and Shannon both have secrets. And so be sure to look up the trigger warnings, because it does have some serious topics, and some of it kind of gets graphic. But I rated this book 4 stars out of 5. It took me a while to come up with like a good rating, just because recently I feel like I've been really overthinking my ratings, but really it's not that big of a deal. I've just been overthinking it, but I think I've got to give this one a 4, because I like steamed through the first 250 pages, loved it. Then I got like a little bored at times, but overall it's like like, although I got bored at times, I just really loved the characters, and I always kept coming back to this book, like, and I still read it relatively quickly, for it being so long, because my copy is 603 pages, but I think, like, depending on the copy you get, it's different pages. And I immediately got, I have Kindle Unlimited, and so I immediately downloaded Keeping 13, because it's on Kindle Unlimited, and I think this one's on Kindle Unlimited too, onto my Kindle, and I started reading it last night after I finished this book. So overall, I would definitely recommend it. I also loved the fact that it was set in Ireland, because I got to kind of learn about, like, this culture, and they have rugby culture, whereas America, I feel like we have football culture, and there's all these words, like Chloe Walsh genuinely put, like, a glossary. She put name pronunciations, which I really appreciated, because I was always coming back to this page, like, and referring to it. And then she also has a glossary of, like, all these words and what they mean. And so I really liked that. And I, like, started tabbing because I just loved Johnny and Shannon so much. I feel like they have so many quotable moments. So I would definitely recommend this. I'm glad I picked it up, and I hopefully will finish Keeping 13 by the end of October, but you will find out. Hi guys, today is November 1st, so I did not read any more books after Binding 13, but thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.